Okay, people, it's
Okay.
a very belated joining up again with Denise Matteau, who I believe to be a modern day hero, um, who speaks outrageous truth and gets a lot of stick online, and so much stick online that she's recently been maliciously removed from YouTube and IP address blocked, which I find tragic because people like Denise telling truth to the best of their knowledge and experience. And like Denise said to me once, they killed my daughter. Beware of somebody who has nothing left to lose. You've killed my daughter. What more can you do to me? Right, I think you've turned your camera off. Did you mean to do that, Denise? Oh, there you
Oops.
are. You're back again.
I'm sorry. I'm having trouble with this. Darn it.
I just want to make sure I'm recording.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I am
recording,
recording.
but I can't see anything.
Can you see me?
Um, I'm sorry. I'm just going to trust that. Can you see me? Because I
Yeah, I
can't.
can see you and you look lovely. And I think I just have to let my dog in because she's disgusted.
Okay, here we are.
Yeah, there you go. You got me. Okay. So Denise and I started doing a series. Denise had her daughter murdered and I had my sister murdered. And neither of us thus far got justice. And I connected with Denise to say, let's talk about this because there were trolls out there who were horrendous saying, oh, get over it. You were a bad mother. She committed suicide. Just blah, blah, blah. Like the trolling of survivors is nothing short of satanic. It's diabolical. And when I tried to get justice for my sister, the police covered it up, the coroner covered it up, it was just and I made a different decision to Denise. I just thought my sister is gone and nothing I'm going to do is going to bring her back. So I decided not to waste the rest of my life fighting for justice because she was already dead. And Denise, in some way, tried to carry on her life without making herself a victim, but she's just started having the courage to say, hold on a minute, this happened, this happened, this happened. I found this out with my research and this and this and this. There are these dots that connect. Hold on a minute. So Denise is kind of an inspiration to me. And I want us to connect partly because there's a big online scandal about is Thomas Schoenberger dead? An online scandal about who is Terry Joyce and why is David Scherter? I'm sad that David Scherter is speaking against you. Um, and I just want to share one more thing with you, and then I'll hand it over to you. Right, back in 2015, 16, when I started covering a big paedophile ring in London, I got somebody sent in on me called Heather Brown, and she lost her son. He got taken off her when he was 6, and she still hasn't got him back. Like he was supposed to be set free from foster care at 18, but they have a thing in the UK where if they can diagnose your child with special needs, they can keep control of them till they're 25. So,
Wow.
yeah, and they kept control of her son till he was 25. They kept his location secret and they kept him with cult member foster carers. And then they had him so brainwashed that he didn't want to meet his mum anymore. Like she'd lost him at 6, and at 26, he was like completely brainwashed. So I'm going to hand it. So my fear is, I'll just be honest with you, right? She got sent in on me, and her and I became really good friends, and we did about 10 podcasts together. But then she turned against me, and she's been my worst troll ever. She's threatened to get my grandchildren taken. She's threatened all sorts. It's like it's been a nightmare. She has been a troll like some people try and describe Thomas Schoenberger. So before we start in on our personal murder, family murder stories, can you just tell me why you believe? Right, and here's one more qualifier. I knew a lot of the Rothschilds, and I believe Jacob Rothschild died 3 years before they announced his death. To such an extent, I sent a commiserations message to Alistair and Christian saying, I'm so sorry you're, I don't know if it was his dad or granddad, probably granddad, but Jacob Rothschild allegedly died in a helicopter crash over a military base where we were stationed as children. But then 3 years later, they announced his death. And it's the same with Michael Aquino. One of the reasons Terry Joyce fell out with me was because I told her Aquino committed suicide allegedly about 2 or 3 years ago. And then his suicide was again announced about 6 months ago. So it's like, what is it with these double death announcements with military assets? And I'm wondering, is it the same with Thomas Schoenberger? Please tell me why you believe he's dead.
Well, first of all, you didn't catch my updates. I believed he was probably dead because of certain interactions that were extremely unlike him, very uncharacteristic of him. And if you know him well, he's a very predictable person.
Okay.
And then I saw certain things happening that suggested that his handlers, because he's had handlers all along,
Yeah.
I did get him about 3/4 away from them.
Yeah.
But then what happened was one of the Cicada Anonymous group, the Anons that run that, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
puzzle game. I'll just call it puzzle game. It's a psyop.
Yeah.
But one of the handlers of that sent a woman who's a music arranger in to befriend Thomas, because Thomas, when I first knew him, Iona Miller was still alive, and she was really his mentor for many years. And she was openly CIA. I mean, in her writings, she openly speaks about that. And you could speculate as to whether that's a fantasy of hers or she's a real asset. I believe she was a real asset because she fit the profile. And he was really, his creative work was dependent on her. And you have to be an artist to understand the dependence relationships that certain kinds of artists, particularly musicians, can have on patrons. And most of these knuckle draggers and gutter sluts have no clue what I'm talking about. So he was in that position of having his female muse, which was very important to him. She died. And while he was in that grieving period, Lisa Clapier, who was in the scene, all of these people come out of the Gnostic New Age, Mount Shasta, Sophia stuff. That's why Sophia music is called Sophia music. Thomas claims when he's speaking to me to be a Catholic because he does that. He will relate to whatever you are.
Yeah.
But in reality, having a lot of honest conversation with him, his beliefs were really Gnostic.
Yeah.
And I don't see that as a bad thing. It's a very complex subject. But anyway, he had that period of creative grief. Lisa Clapier, who was a political organizer, who was in the same movement, because the politics of California are a religious cult separate from other religious cults.
Okay.
They are a Mount Shasta New Age, Timothy Leary, I mean, Gavin Newsom and Pelosi's and all these people, they're all out of the psychedelic culture.
Yeah.
And he grew up in that. So Lisa Clapier was a political organizer for Occupy, which is a psychedelic revolution organization. She stepped forward to try to, You know, like how a woman seeing a man on the rebound would try to catch him on the rebound.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
she steps into that role, except she didn't have the intellect to really relate to him.
Okay.
So he leaned on her for a while. And the two of them, she got him involved with trying to manipulate Paula Davis, which was a two-way manipulation. Paula Davis was actually sent in by another handler. See,
Right, wait, let
Thomas,
me just slow you down. Who is Paula Davis? Is she Jessie Davis? Who is Paula Davis?
oh, Pavana,
That's what I thought. Yeah,
the
okay.
famous 19th nervous breakdown. That's
Yeah,
what I
yeah,
call
yeah,
it, the 19th
yeah,
nervous breakdown, right?
yeah.
The catfish, right? And she and her husband, I mean, this is what's frustrating about somebody like Thomas. He's an intelligent man, but it didn't occur to him that if you are in a friendship with a married woman and she starts complaining about her husband, and her husband is aware of your relationship and is participating in the emails,
Yeah.
face it, buddy, you're in a menage a trois.
I think he's funding Terry Joyce. I think he's made a lot of money through whatever means, and he's funding. I suspect he's
Who
funding
he?
Jesse Davis. I think he's funding.
Oh yeah, he's a businessman.
Yeah,
He's a street thug,
and
petty.
I like Pavana's poetry. I'm horrified at the cartoons like dog bestiality and poop
I think she
fetish and
partly is encouraged by her knuckle dragger husband to do that, but that's just my
yeah,
personal
yeah,
opinion.
yeah, yeah, and it's very complicated. And I just want to set the record straight. Well, I don't want to interrupt you. Let you finish your. Like, I try not to engage with all that because these
No,
people
you're
are
right not to. It's not worth it.
but not just that, they're dangerous.
Yeah, they are. They suck people into the gutter, and you think you're above that stuff until face it. If you're not above catching the bacteria that live in poop.
And also like I shared a video, not with you because I wasn't online at the time, but this Jeff Reed that was a friend of Terry Joyce, who she's
Oh
never
yeah, him.
acknowledged dying, but he
I
said to
saw
me,
him in one of her other panels with other people.
what recently, since he's allegedly died.
I suspect that he did because he did not look healthy in the video where he was on a panel co-hosting with her and somebody else on one of their stupid UFO discussions.
In his weakness, when he was trying to attack me and saying, I know people where you live and I've got contacts everywhere and I've got a
Yeah.
network of 70,000.
Knuckle dragger.
Well, there's also a biker with a swastika on his motorbike and contacts all over the world. And to be honest,
Yeah, they do.
yeah, and he had brilliant information about Lahaina, no, Paradise Fires and Erin Brockovich. But he did confess to me that he had never got therapy for surviving the Paradise Fires and the trauma that ensued. So I suspect if he is dead, I suspect suicide, and I'm very suspicious as to why Terry Joyce
Well,
has.
he looked to be just simply chronically ill. I mean, in the video in which I saw him guesting with these other people on this UFO discussion, his whole demeanor was of somebody who was already pretty sick.
Yeah,
And
and
I mean, I don't care. It just I noticed that. So realistically, but I don't really care about any of those people.
no,
They're not
I
really.
know because we don't know them in real life.
I mean, they are. You're right that they're dangerous. You have to keep an eye on
I
them.
swear to God.
But I don't relate to them. Put it
And
that way.
I don't know, like, I'm going to do an interview with an American podcaster on Friday, and I don't know. You could drive yourself crazy trying to think who is targeting me because it got real. Like
And it doesn't matter because if you find out who's targeting you, someone else will step in their place
yeah,
because they are an
yeah,
army. We're
but
at war. This is
yeah,
not a personal dispute.
no,
This is a war. And a lot of people still don't get that.
it is, and it's the new warfare. Now, I really wanted to make sure. I wanted to make it that anyway. Anyway, look, I can only get you on camera, and that's great. That's fine. You look lovely. But I wanted to say, I'm going to get brave and say one more thing um, about Max Spears and Terry Joyce, right? Max Spears and I were in touch for quite a lot of years. I was,
Max, you're speaking, excuse me, is Max Spears?
yeah, he's dead.
Oh,
He
mhm.
died in
Yeah,
mysterious.
I know who you mean. I just didn't
Right.
know it. I wasn't sure I heard you right.
No, so back in 2013, I think it was, Miles Johnston um, offered to travel to Ireland to interview me because I was a survivor of military abuse and programs. And
Mhm.
he did indeed fly over and film me for 11 hours. This was before Zoom. So if anybody wanted to interview you, they had
Yeah.
to come and do it. But he made me so triggered in the sort of 2 weeks running up to the interview that I reached out to Max Spears and Kathy Morgan, who he'd previously interviewed. And I said, this guy is like making me so on edge. I'm like absolutely freaking out. And Max said to me, yeah, he's a bit dangerous, keep him at arm's length. And Kathy Morgan said she would come and stay with me. And I got so anxious with Miles Johnston's sort of gatekeeping and triggering, I booked him a hotel room in the town. I didn't, I like I'd originally offered him a guest room in my house, and I just didn't feel comfortable with it. And so
Well,
Max,
excuse me, but why would she want to stay with you? Like in your house?
no, yeah, but no, because I'm stupid like that. The Irish are very hospitable, so I've got
Yeah.
a guest room or two. So if somebody's offering to travel over from England to Ireland and film you for a couple of days, my natural manners would say, go on
Mhm.
ahead, here's the guest room. But Max and Kathy Morgan and Nina Valentine, all who'd been interviewed by him before, they said to me, you're right to have red flags and go ahead with the interview, but be careful. And so
Mhm.
Max and I used to communicate as fellow survivors. And Max had stayed at Miles Johnston's house, and apparently Miles plied him with drink, and then there was allegedly an attempted sodomy attack, at which point Max Spears ran out of the house with a knife, chasing down Miles Johnston, and the police were called, and so on and so forth. But the bottom line I'm
Wow.
saying is that I knew Max Spears at a level that Terry Joyce could only dream of, right? She was like a
But she's not capable. I
no,
mean, she really is stupid.
she was like a
Sorry.
groupie. She was like a groupie. Max Spears was disclosing about Michael Aquino and Miles Johnston and uh, Ricky Gervais and Michael George and the porn industry in London and the porn industry connected to Revolution Radio, the porn industry connected to Kerry Cassidy and
Yeah.
that whole scene, right? He was disclosing hugely. And he was saying to me,
Hmm.
Angie, please interview me. I need to spill the beans on all this. But I was getting so badly trolled back then in 2015
Yeah.
that I said to him, I've got to clear my name first before I do any more interviews. So I put him off.
Hmm.
And then he got murdered. But he was messaging me right up until days before his murder, and then Terry Joyce did a whole expose on me and said,
No, she's a
yeah.
figurehead,
And she
and
said,
what you're talking about is very interesting
yeah,
because I mean I don't want to go off topic into
no,
it.
I
We'll
know,
if
I
we
know.
continue these conversations, we'll get to all of it.
We
But
will.
there is a whole thing about Max Spears, but I don't want to get distracted from Thomas
No,
Schoenberger's.
I just want to
Yeah,
complete saying that
yeah.
part of Terry
No, I
Joyce,
think you're right to bring that up.
yeah, part of her huge expose of me was Max had said to me, because I said to him, I'm getting trolled. You would not believe how I'm getting trolled. And this was back in 2016, 15, nothing like now when I'm getting bricks through my window and so on. But at the time, it was pretty intense. And Max said to me, I've got your back, Angie. Don't worry. The sky is not falling. And then Terry Joyce did a video. Oh, I don't think that sounds like something Max would say. I'm friends
Well,
with
she doesn't
her.
need.
And it's like, you were nothing but a groupie to Max. Max was
Yeah, no, she's a street whore.
Max.
I'm
Well,
sorry, I'm not charitable. You know me.
Max was very Max was very ambitious. So there were certain people he considered fellow survivors with whom he could be completely honest, and I was one of them. And then there were other people that he thought were an opportunity for him. So Terry Joyce got a job with American Freedom Radio, Revolution Radio,
Mm-hmm.
blah, blah, blah. So
Mm-hmm.
he thought,
Mm-hmm.
oh, that will help my career. He literally,
Mm-hmm.
he would think that would, he had three groups of people that he would communicate. He was a bit of a lady killer, so he would romance women online. He would. Sorry, he just would. That was the thing. And the other thing,
Oh,
he would communicate honestly with fellow survivors. And the other thing is he would use people like Terry Joyce because she had a platform. So
yeah,
her whole thing about I knew Max Spears, I interviewed him, I know his mother.
yeah.
His
Oh,
mother said, it's like,
that's just Hollywood.
and she
You
went
know, that's all that is.
she went and met Sarah Jane Adams, Max's ex, because he was messaging me until a few days before his death about Sarah and saying she's doing witchcraft against me and blah blah blah. And Terry Joyce had messaged me saying Sarah Rachel Adams and Taj want me to meet them for lunch in Hollywood and they're going to bring Haley Myers, the billionaire daughter, along. And I just said, you're playing with fire. You are playing with the dark side, you're playing with fire. But she ignored me because
Yeah.
she wanted she just wanted the excitement, So I
Mm-hmm.
don't wish her any harm, but she is brutally assaulting David Sherter, who is a
Yeah, no, I know about that, and I understand it.
genuine
And it's like
survivor.
she doesn't need to be sucking anybody's. You know, we don't need to pay attention to her, but to look at the bigger picture, what's going on here.
Update
Um,
me as to why do you still believe, because Jedi played a tape of Thomas Schoenberger saying I'm not dead, but it was a
yeah,
couple
I was trying to explain that to you,
sorry,
but
go
we
ahead.
got kind of
Right,
yeah.
we've got so much in common. I
Hmm.
can't help talking. And somebody said,
I know it's all over,
yeah, and
and
somebody,
you can't help it to find somebody who understands at
I
the gut
know,
level.
I know, and
It's just I feel the same way. I want to go in five different directions, and I'm
some,
kind of,
like,
I'm trying to use my Aspie superpowers that
I
I can
know.
have tunnel vision, and so I'm trying to use my Aspie superpower of
Okay,
tunnel
so
vision.
tell me if you still think Thomas is dead, and what you think of Jedi's live stream.
Well, as I was saying, I did believe he was dead because of certain circumstances, and I was starting the narrative and kind of going back a bit with his background, right? Because for one thing, and I don't want to get back off topic, but he does share a common denominator with Max Spears because he was not the kind of, I mean, I really don't know that much about Spears because I haven't followed his topic, but I do my understanding is that he was a fully enlisted military of some kind, right?
He
Fully inside the military.
there's a lot of discrepancies, but his mother was indeed living in Nelson, Canada at the time.
Was he enlisted in the army or Air
I
Force or
don't think
anything?
so. His family is an acting family. His grandfather was a very
Oh,
famous British actor, and his mother is kind of a new age witch, if I'm honest. A nice woman, but new agey, witchy.
so he might never have enlisted in uniform, is what I'm trying
So
to get at.
no, but when James Casbolt, aka Michael Prince, described experiments in a military base in Nelson, Canada, Vanessa confirmed that she had lived there with Max in that time at that time.
Yeah, she
So
had lived there, but I'm getting at the point of actual enlistment in
I
uniform,
don't
the
have any.
status
No, I
a
don't have.
soldier or
James
yeah.
Casbolt has a credible evidence of having been enlisted, even in the American military. But Max Spears, no, he was more the acting elite. Theatre.
Okay. Well, anyway, the point, just that they do have something in common. I don't really, like I said, I don't want to get off topic again.
No.
Yeah, but to get back to Schoenberger, I was describing his biography, okay, of the fact that as a personality, as a creative savant, which he truly is, he has a dependence on the muse, and Iona Miller was a true muse for him because I've read her articles. She was very intellectual and very deep thinker. I mean, I don't agree with a lot of it, but I could see the depth of it, and I could see that that's what he resonates with. So Clapier comes along, and she's just like Terry Joyce. She's a Hollywood shallow, new age floozy. And she saw the opportunity as part of her political work was somebody had to step in to pick up the pieces when Thomas was in grief over Iona Miller. She steps in, it doesn't work out. At the same time as that was going on, this is what I was just starting to get at. See, there's this group of female handlers who come out of a specific Aquino-related cult.
Yeah.
All of these men, if you notice, they all have cougars.
Yeah.
DeFango's cougar is a woman named Sherry Vaughn, who promotes herself as great grandmother and does the whole new age rule stuff. And and she's just like these others from California, terribly shallow, a cartoon figure of a new ager. Well, she actually was shepherding Pavana. Pavana had written a book about channeling spirits from the California New Age stuff before she ever met Schoenberger, right? So she calls him a brainwasher. No, she had written a book. So this whole group that's the CIA-based, Aquino-based group, because Aquino is Army, right? So the Army CIA-based group had their eyes. If you write a book that you're channeling spirits, that book is on the shelf of somebody in the Army CIA. Wow. They're saying, okay, hey, look, we got another one. How can we use her? So Pavana was there. And Sherry Vaughn comes along. DeFango had worked for an Obama political group.
Yeah.
So they were already looking at who they're looking at. Sherry Vaughn was friendly. She wasn't handling DeFango at that point, from what I could see. She was like in the Cicada chat rooms befriending people. She shepherded Pavana to go get to know Thomas at the same time as this guy who calls himself Baby Fist, which in America, that's a pedo slang term.
Horrific. It makes
he's a pedo. Yeah. I don't care what they say. That's a pet. You don't use a pedo name.
No, you don't.
And if you do it accidentally, which he claims it was some other reason and he didn't know, well, then you change it right quick when you find out. Yes. Dumbass, So anyway, he shepherded Marcia Stockton when Lisa Clapier didn't work out. But Sherry Vaughn had got full control of DeFango through being his landlady, because they drive you into the street and then they rescue you.
Yeah.
And that's what they did to DeFango. And they tried to do it to Thomas. Thomas, though, is an Aspie. You can't rent. Aspies are hard to rescue. They got him down to Mexico to Arturo, Tafoya's place, and he had the great fight with Tafoya down there and come back to the United States. But that was during the rescue period, and it was, I forget who he said it was. It was it was Beth Bogarts, who arranged with Tafoya to pick up the pieces when they had put both DeFango and Schoenberger were thrown into the street after Shadowbox fell apart.
Yeah.
So Sherry Vaughn picks up the pieces for DeFango. Beth Bogarts picked up broken down Schoenberger, sends him to Mexico. He gets into a knockdown, drag out fight with Tafoya and his whole Mexican family and comes back to the United States. I'm sorry, but it is funny when you know what happened.
No, I followed it all. And the interesting part was I hadn't realized that the stat was from a Mormon polygamous.
I didn't either until it started to be bandied about, and Tafoya talked about it himself.
Yeah,
That's another video. We could
okay.
go into that.
Okay, carry on.
But anyway, so Schoenberger comes back to the United States. Um, he's still trying to put things back together. Um, he gets involved in this three-way with Pavana and her husband, and they're basically lawsuit grifters, but they're also political because Jesse Davis is heavily involved in Michigan, Indiana politics. And so when he's not
You
playing
mean
YouTube
Jesse? You mean
drama with
Jesse? You mean
Pavana,
you mean Jesse
excuse,
Davis? You said Jesse.
that's Sewertown. I'm talking about
Yeah,
Sewertown.
Jesse Davis.
Yeah, that's the husband.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So he's involved in local politics up there,
yeah.
and he's basically a money grifter. And that's why he pimps his wife out with fetish photography.
Yeah, yeah. We
Um,
won't dwell on that. It's
yeah,
so horrific.
and I mean it's all so basically they took on the job of pimping her out to this group that was playing games, puzzle games, and then that falls apart.
Yeah.
So then while that's falling apart, the same cult says, oh my God, we're going to lose control of Schoenberger again. The only way they can control Thomas Schoenberger is with a woman, because
Oh.
that's the only type of person he really respects.
Okay, so you've got to send a honey trap in.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
they hunted around and they finally figured out that he not only needs a woman, but he needs an intelligent.
Okay, okay, okay.
And that by that time they saw me on the fringes and they said, "Oh no, we don't want it to be her. She's not one of us." So
Cougar.
they got hold of
Cougar.
Marcia Stockton,
Right.
right? Marcia Stockton is a upper class woman. Grew up in the symphony music world, and I know enough. I mean, if you know Massachusetts and Tanglewood and the Boston Symphony Orchestra, I know about this stuff. You don't grow up to become a classical cellist with a symphony orchestra if you grow up blue collar.
Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
doesn't happen.
Yeah,
Okay. So
yeah,
she grows up in the cultural world, which is also Thomas's world.
yeah, yeah.
He grew up the same way in California, with his father being a psychiatrist and his mother being whatever she was, his family social world being upper class. So, and although he was out in the street being wild man, with his garage rock band and all this other stupid stuff. And so Marcia Stockton successfully gets involved as his music arranger. Now, although this is going on, Thomas's music is owned by the CIA asset. At least Iona Miller owned Thomas's music. When she died, the ownership was still, he's not a businessman. He does not have a head for business.
No, me.
He wants to just do his art,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Except that he also enjoys the troll drama game, so he gets into that. But reality is, he just wants somebody to pay the bills and don't worry about it. And a lot of artists are like that. I'm like that. We all have ways of surviving. So they had to keep putting people in. Now he has contracts with a very wealthy producer who it turns out is heavily involved in the Mossad culture warfare productions of hip hop and all this other crap. And that's Michael Levine. And Michael Levine physically, I mean, Thomas Schoenberger is a slave. I was really trying to sneak a slave off the plantation. That
I
basically
want to
that's
stop you on a couple. I just want to interject a couple of things. I saw a video about the hip hop movement where somebody who was quite famous and up and coming was invited to a meeting, and the men in suits had invested in private prisons. And they said,
mm-hmm.
we're going to engineer the hip hop music.
The private prisons are in East Texas.
Well, they were going to engineer the hip hop music to promote crime, to create clients for the private prisons. It was totally shocking.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I wanted to say to you is about Gabe Hoffman. Amy Berg was the director of the film that he suppressed, which is
Open Secret. Mm-hmm.
Secret. And
he sued her.
Yeah, and my sons knew her son. We spent 6 weeks in Santa Monica about 2009 or 10, and I was going to emigrate back there and bring my sons into the Hollywood scene, you know. And
I bet you're glad you didn't.
oh my God, I'm so glad. I'm so glad. I was being courted, or my sons were being pursued by the likes of David Bowie, Kiefer Sutherland, Donald Sutherland, Tony Suzuki. All of the Hollywood bigs were after my boys because they're Disney's, and one looks like a perfect Aryan, and the other looks like a Viking, and they just wanted them, right? But the point is, in the 6 weeks I took them there, Amy Berg's son came to a party where I had rented a place. And the father, who was divorced from Amy Berg, came and he says, "Wow, you're living near Pico in Santa Monica. Is it not a bit dangerous?" And I'm so naive. I'm like, "Oh, it doesn't feel dangerous to me. We just walk 2 blocks down and we're on the beach and we're having a lovely time and all the rest of it." But Amy Berg had done a fantastic documentary about the Irish Catholic Church clergy scandal, in the name of the Father or something like that, it was called. And so I had great hopes for her documentary. And then I was totally shocked when Gabe Hoffman, who seemed to have funded it and promoted it, all of a sudden shut her down. So that's just
because that's why he put the money in. They set it up with a kill switch, and he was their kill switch.
But there's somebody else did that. Not a friend, somebody I interviewed called John Irwin, who was a military guy, and he had an amazing story to tell, and it was very similar to my father's time in the military. And Sean Stone flew to London, arranged by Miles Johnston again, and he met with this guy, John Irwin, and he bought the rights to his book and promised to make a movie out of it. And then he killed it. He killed it.
Yeah.
So John Irwin could never sell the rights to his book to anybody else. He'd only been given
That's
5
what
or
they
10.
Do. That's the Mossadian Jewish mafia.
It was just heartbreaking.
I don't know how it is in the UK, but that's all over the place here in the United States.
It's the exact same. Anyway, back to Thomas Schoenberger. I think that's all we're going to cover tonight, because I don't want to taint. My whole reason for contacting you was because your daughter was murdered, my sister was murdered. I want us to come together, and you've been doing fantastic, because we got interrupted. I got hacked, I got raided, I got targeted off the charts.
Yeah, I wanted to say something about that before we close, just briefly.
No, I'm not closing yet. I'm not closing yet. But I'm just thinking this is what we were meant to do today. And we do need to come back to the main thing, which is your daughter's murder and my sister's murder. And all the rest is distraction and targeting.
Yeah. What I wanted to say about this violence that you've been experiencing, I noticed in the chatter I call it Greater Seward Town to indicate that it's this whole cluster of channels, not all of which are directly involved with each other, but they fall into the same pocket.
Okay.
And the chatter among the trolls and the regulars in that world, there have been, I think, 3 different fires, accounting Dave Schurter's issue with the garage. And I know there are issues with his mental state, but you know what? It doesn't matter. The facts
I don't
matter.
think he's mentally ill. He is. I don't agree with him with his shamanism, and sometimes he gets things wrong. But I don't think he's mentally ill.
The point is the facts matter.
Okay, yeah.
And he is mistaken. I believe personally, he's mistaken about his sheriff ignoring it. His sheriff just can't deal with him. But
no, we can agree to disagree. I absolutely believe him that his sheriff is corrupt.
Well, I'm not going to worry about it. It's not. I'm not there. I don't know. I'm trying to get to a point about the freaking violence. Okay. the garage blow-ups, even if it was accidental, there are issues there. And he's been making an issue of it. For whether you believe it or not, doesn't matter. He's making an issue of it. And there is an issue of these other guys, and Terry Joyce's friendship with Daniel Dowd is something that could go into another video as well. Dowd and this other guy, Captain Apu, that Schroeder calls Captain Underpants, they were both playing with his head in relation to that.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like Netches was an accident, but was it really an accident? You know, we know stuff here in Texas that's not on YouTube.
Yeah.
But so there's the garage explosions with Schroeder. Then there were two, I don't really know the details, but two different, very active, what I call agents in the world. One of them is a man named Aaron Cox. I don't know if you know about him.
No.
He's basically just a troll, and you probably haven't noticed him. He's involved, though, in the United States here with the Port Neches thing. Okay. And he is heavily involved with the PSYOP. That's another part of another video. He's heavily involved with the PSYOP, and he's been like, he's one of those people that is the enemy, but he puts up stuff that is factual, so you have to keep watching him, right?
Yeah.
He was in of its stream, very angry, and I believe very honestly talking about a problem with trolls that activate YouTube. Were going after him by emailing him that they knew all about his job at a dog food factory. And he said this was weird because he said his neighbor, his next door neighbor, worked at the dog food factory they were talking about. And he's trying to figure out why the hell are they going after my neighbors? And then there was a fire.
Wow.
So that's number two. Number three, I don't know the details at all, but he spoke about it. He said that Aussie John, who's an Australian foreign agent working with the same PSYOP, Aussie John had something to do with a fire affecting him. I don't know the story. I'm just ask Aussie John what's going on. Maybe Aaron Cox was lying. I have no clue. But I said, wow, this all happened within the past 6 weeks.
Yeah, and Aussie John.
So what I'm saying here is, I know about the troll network. I know the military arm, the Lincoln Group, the American PSYOP. It's the American Army, the same group that was involved with the Irish Troubles.
Wow.
They're reactivated. Wow. And now the group has begun to escalate to personal, random acts of violence.
Yeah.
And the next step is military terrorism.
Yeah, and just when you were talking about names, one thing I want to say is Aussie John allegedly was in David Schroeder's chat saying that he thinks he's an MK Ultra SRA survivor. And David Schroeder said, contact me privately and I'll help you. And
David Schroeder has been, this is what my contact with David Schroeder is based on the fact that there is real physical contact, provable, law enforcement has it, between him selling his book, which when you're selling a physical book, you've got commercial paper, you've got publishing contracts, it doesn't matter, you can be crazy as a loon. There's factual paper trail. And he was involved with the late Captain Thomas White, a Massachusetts State Police captain, who I believe was killed because of his investigations into this stuff.
I believe you.
And he was working with the MK Ultra PSYOP grooming group, which works with the Satanic Temple in Massachusetts.
Yes.
And they do these conferences where they pull victims in and they set you up with counselors.
Yeah.
And the counselors are fake. It's a brainwashing routine.
100%,
and it's out of 100%. Boston.
That's the same as Miles Johnston over this side of the water. Gatekeepers. They're just gatekeepers. They find the real high-level SRA survivors, MK Ultra survivors. They find out everything you know. They love bomb you, and then they put a target on your back, basically.
But they also find people whose life experience can be falsely groomed to tell them they're MK Ultra survivors and use them as bait to find more.
Yeah, exactly. I'm wary about doing that. And I remember putting out a call for help in documenting because I've got mountains of evidence, right? And so I put out a call for somebody to help me to scan it all and put it on my website and just document the evidence. And a girl turned up who was running away from Scientology and whose father was in the Secret Services. It's like, it's, it's like, you're just joking me. Do you know what I mean? The people they sent, another guy I got sent in was from Deutsche Bank. It's like, you're having a laugh. You're just, like, there's a limit. I know we can dissociate, or I can, but there's a limit to how stupid you think we are, do you know? But anyway,
Yeah.
I think this was superb. And if there's anything else you want to say about my targeting, like I'm getting trolls making joke videos about ha ha ha, she thinks she's targeted just because she got chemical soaked rocks thrown through her windows and blah blah blah. And the only other thing I want to say to you is I got a
Well,
full
my windows were busted last summer, and there
yeah,
was some kind of back and forth. They were in touch with the larger gang. Now,
yeah.
getting back to Michael Levine and hip hop music, I
Okay.
didn't know. I didn't know he was more than the violinist that Thomas has described. I knew that Thomas was pulled into some kind of contract with a major hip hopper named Acorn or something like that. Well,
Okay.
I happened to be talking with a neighbor who's black and he's not really into the hip hop, but he's young enough that when we were talking a little bit about the music world and I mentioned that Acorn and asked him, he knew all about Michael Levine as a hip hop producer. And
Okay.
he started talking about his music. Oh, yeah,
Wow.
little guy with a violin. I said, yeah, little guy with a violin. Little Jew guy with a violin. Yeah, little Jew guy with a violin. The black folks all know him as a hip hop producer.
Wow.
So he has both feet. And I'm talking, we know who the gangs are out here. I would say the black gangs are related more to the Crips than the Bloods because there's a subgroup of the Crips called the Pirus. And the Pirus comes from a Creole word, Piru. It basically, they started out in California, but they were black Creoles.
Okay.
And the blacks around here are from the Pirus.
Okay.
So when he started talking about they all know all about this stuff, like, oh.
Yeah.
And then when the window busting happened, it was me and another neighbor. Our windows were busted in, and this guy was actually related to one of the people who did it. We had a whole mess going on.
Yeah.
Um, but like I'm saying, you know these things,
Yeah.
and they were not part of a conspiracy to bust windows. But the gangs that were around Michael Levine, I saw the thread immediately. Michael Levine knows who to activate among the Pirus
Okay.
when he's got a problem in a Piru in a
Yeah.
crypt
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
area.
Yeah. You send out a compromised person or a police informant or a drug addict, and you just say, "Go and do a job at
Yeah,
the
and I
address."
mean these two dykes that were busting the windows, they probably had no clue. They were probably just
No
at a
clue.
party and hey, you get that old lady. Well, you blah,
Yeah.
blah, 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 blah,
Yeah.
and hey, here's some crack, and
Yeah.
off they go.
Yeah.
You
Exactly.
know,
Exactly.
and there's no conspiracy. It's just crime.
Yeah. Exactly.
And
Exactly.
so we all can laugh about it because the thing is, this is where they can't deal with me because I grew up in that kind of family. Okay,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I grew up in a goddamn
Irish
mafia family.
mafia and French Canadian. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so, I can look at it and I know that, well, if you realize you've got a neighborhood gang,
Yeah.
you relate to the individuals
Yeah.
and they know they're really about their neighborhood.
Yeah.
I mean, not in any noble fashion, although they could be if they wanted to. But
Yeah,
basically, they're not stupid. They don't
yeah,
want to have problems. And so you can relate to them and say, hey, look at this and look at that. And the next time, Michael Levine wants to trigger a street level violence while he pretends to be an innocent little violinist, he's going to have a harder time finding somebody because
yeah,
they're just saying, hey, no, bro, we ain't doing
yeah.
that. Go
I
away.
totally relate to what you're
You
saying.
know.
Right, I think this was brilliant, and I think like I can't tell you. I wrote a to-do list yesterday and it was so overwhelming I had to take a nap straight away. And there's so many things I have to do, but I'm really, really glad that we pressed through. We didn't connect yesterday because you slept in. And then today I was so tempted to say I'm not well. But I just think
Mm.
if we do one good thing a day to keep telling the truth, and I'm
Yeah, that's all we can do. I mean, and
one
and let
thing
the
a day.
chips fall where they may.
Exactly, yeah. All right,
Yeah.
Denise, that was amazing. I'll upload this and I'll send you a link. It'll be up. It might take a couple of days, but I'll get it up.
Mhm.
And I'm so delighted to talk to you.
Okay, well, take care and
Yeah,
take
and
care of yourself.
we've clearly got so much more to talk about that
Yeah.
it's just,
I'm glad we reconnected because
yeah.
I really was missing you. And so, I won't say it because, the trolls will be activated, but I won't be gone long.
Good. But it's like the gates of hell opened up. We did two shows and the gates of hell opened up and just the shit hit the fan.
Well, they're just noise. They're nothing but piles of pixels.
Okay. All right. Take care. Talk to you again soon. Maybe next week. Once
Okay.
a week. Let's just aim for once a week. We have so
Yeah,
much
that's
truth.
good.
Yeah. All right.
I can
Take
do
care.
that.
All right. God bless.